She sits alone on a rocky shore, her back to us, gazing out at an endless expanse of dark water. Her body is bare except for white and crimson drapery beneath her. In one hand she holds a mirror, catching her own reflection. In the other, a coral necklace dangles from her fingers, one of many trinkets scattered beside her. Her dark hair is pinned elegantly, woven with red ribbon. The sea stretches before her, empty and vast. He's gone. This is Calypso's Isle, painted by Herbert James Draper in 1897. It captures one of mythology's most achingly beautiful moments, the instant after goodbye, when love realizes it wasn't enough to make someone stay. Herbert James Draper wasn't a household name, but in late Victorian and Edwardian England, he was the master of mythological painting. Born in London in 1863, the son of a fruit merchant, he studied at the Royal Academy and won their gold medal and travelling studentship in 1889. Those trips to Rome and Paris shaped his artistic vision. He learned to paint the human form with classical precision while infusing it with emotional depth. His most productive years began in 1894, and he specialised almost exclusively in scenes from Greek mythology. Not the heroic battle scenes other painters favoured, but the intimate, emotionally complex moments. His painting, The Lament for Icarus, won gold at the Paris Universal Exhibition in 1900. He painted sirens, water nymphs, mythological seductions, always with an emphasis on sensuality and psychology over action. But Calypso's Isle might be his most emotionally devastating work. It's the moment where beauty and heartbreak become inseparable. To understand this painting, you need to know the myth. In Homer's Odyssey, Calypso was a nymph, essentially a minor goddess who lived alone on the remote island of Ogygia. When Odysseus washed ashore after a shipwreck, having lost all his men and his last ship, she rescued him. She nursed him back to health, and she fell completely in love with him. Calypso's name itself is revealing. It comes from the Greek word kalypto, meaning to cover or to conceal. She hid Odysseus from the world. For 7 years she kept him on her island, not through chains or force, but through love, comfort, and an impossible offer, immortality. Stay with me, she promised, and you'll never die. You'll never age. You'll live forever in paradise. But Odysseus refused. He had a wife, Penelope, waiting in Ithaca. He had a son he'd never really known. He had a kingdom and a life that belonged to him, not to this island paradise. Every day he sat on the shore, staring at the horizon, weeping for home. And every night he returned to Calypso's bed, because what else could he do? Finally the gods intervened. Athena complained to Zeus that Odysseus was being held captive. Zeus sent Hermes to order Calypso to release him. She had no choice. You don't refuse a direct command from Zeus. So she helped Odysseus build a raft, gave him provisions, summoned favourable winds, and watched him sail away toward a home that mattered more to him than she ever could. That's where Draper's painting begins. After. Calypso sits on the rocky coastline, completely alone. Her pose is remarkable. She's turned away from us, her back exposed, vulnerable. This wasn't how portrait subjects were typically painted in 1897. The three-quarter back view creates intimacy and isolation simultaneously. We're looking at a private moment of grief that we shouldn't be witnessing. Her body is rendered with Draper's characteristic skill. Every curve, every muscle, the way her weight settles on the rock, it's anatomically perfect. But this isn't titillation. This is loneliness made visible. Her posture says everything. Shoulders slightly slumped, head held at that particular angle of someone trying to hold themselves together. The mirror in her right hand is held up at shoulder level, angled upward, not toward her face, but toward the sky. She's not looking at it. It shows nothing. This isn't self-examination. This is interrogation of the heavens. The gods intervened in her love, ordered Odysseus released, and she had no power to refuse. That mirror angled skyward becomes a silent question to the divine powers that took him from her. Why? The tool meant for admiring beauty now points accusingly at the realm that stripped her happiness away. In her left hand, that coral necklace dangles. Beside her, more jewellery and trinkets lie scattered, offerings perhaps, or adornments she'd put on hoping they'd make him stay. Now they're meaningless. All the beauty, all the treasures of her island paradise couldn't compete with the pull of home and duty. The landscape is crucial. The rocks are dry and sun-bleached, painted in muted ochres and dusty browns. There's no trace of vegetation, no hint of green. This is supposed to be paradise, but Draper paints it as stark and isolating. Homer described Ogygia as lush and perfumed. Draper drains it of life. For what is paradise if it contains only yourself? When beauty has no witness, does it still mean anything? The sea dominates the composition. It's painted in dark, moody tones, not the crystalline Mediterranean blue you'd expect, but something deeper and more melancholic. That sea is now an impassable barrier between Calypso and the man she loves. What makes this painting so devastating is that Calypso isn't a villain. In most versions of the myth, especially in the Odyssey, she's painted as a captor, a seductress who imprisoned Odysseus against his will. But look at Draper's interpretation. This is a woman who loved completely and lost absolutely. She offered everything: immortality, eternal youth, paradise, unconditional love. And it wasn't enough. Not because she wasn't worthy, but because you can't compete with someone's need to go home. You can't make someone stay who's determined to leave, no matter how much you love them or how much you have to offer. The painting captures that specific kind of heartbreak when you've done everything right, been everything you could be, and the person still chooses to leave. Not because of anything you did wrong, just because their heart belongs somewhere else. When Calypso's Isle was exhibited in the late 1890s, critics praised Draper's mythological vision, though one complained that Calypso's form was not so plump as it ought to be. A very Victorian concern. But the painting resonated deeply with its audience. Late Victorian society was obsessed with the intersection of beauty, morality, and female sexuality. Women in art were typically painted as either pure or dangerous, virginal or seductive. Draper's Calypso is neither and both. She's sensual, but not threatening. She's powerful, a goddess, but completely vulnerable. She's beautiful, but devastated. The painting also speaks to Victorian anxieties about love and duty. Odysseus chose duty over desire, responsibility over paradise. That's the right choice in traditional morality. But Draper makes us question that. Look at what that choice cost. Look at the loneliness it created. Is duty always worth this much pain? Calypso's Isle hangs in the Manchester Art Gallery, and people still stop in front of it, caught by something they can't quite articulate. It's technically beautiful. Draper's skill with the human form and composition is undeniable. But that's not why it haunts you. It's that back, that posture, the way she holds that mirror, the trinkets scattered beside her like abandoned hopes, the empty sea. Every element combines to create a single, overwhelming emotion, the loneliness of being left behind. We've all been there in some form, maybe not as a mythological goddess on a magical island, but in that moment when someone we love chooses something else. When we realize that no amount of love, no amount of what we have to offer is enough to make them stay. When we're left sitting alone, staring at the space they used to occupy, trying to understand what we did wrong, even though we know we did nothing wrong. Draper understood that 7 years of love can end in a single morning, that you can give someone everything and still watch them sail away, that sometimes the most beautiful moments are also the most tragic. Not because something went wrong, but because that's just how love works sometimes. That mirror is the key to the whole painting. Calypso holds it at shoulder level, angled upward toward the sky, But she's not looking at it. It shows nothing, just blank surface held up to an empty horizon, or perhaps toward the heavens themselves. It's one of the most devastating details Draper could have painted, and it works on multiple levels. In Greek mythology, mirrors symbolize vanity and self-regard. But here, it's transformed into something far more complex. This is a tool of beauty rendered meaningless. What's the point of seeing yourself, of maintaining beauty, when the person you wanted to see you is gone? But there's something deeper. The mirror angled upward suggests she's questioning not just herself, but the cosmic order, fate, the gods, the very powers that took him from her. Remember, it wasn't Odysseus' choice alone to leave. Zeus commanded it. Hermes delivered the order. The gods intervened, and she, a minor nymph, couldn't refuse. She holds that mirror up, as if asking the heavens, "Why? What power do I have against your decrees?" All her immortality, all her divine nature, meant nothing when the Olympians decided her 7 years were over. The mirror becomes a symbol of futility on every level. Beauty means nothing without someone to share it with. Divine power means nothing when greater gods override your will. She holds it almost absently, like she picked it up out of habit, adorned herself preparing for another day with him, only to remember he's not there anymore. It's the gesture of someone going through motions that no longer have meaning, questioning forces she can't control, holding up an empty mirror to an indifferent sky. The tragedy isn't that Calypso lost Odysseus. The tragedy is that she'll live forever, never aging, never dying, carrying this heartbreak eternally. She's immortal, which means she'll never have the mercy of forgetting. She'll sit on that shore, looking in that mirror for the rest of time. That's what makes this the most beautifully tragic painting ever made. It captures a perfect moment of loss. Not violent or dramatic, but quiet and complete. The kind of loss that doesn't kill you, but changes you forever. The kind where you sit alone afterward, surrounded by everything you thought would be enough, realizing it never was and never could be. Draper painted heartbreak as a woman on a rock, holding a mirror, watching an empty sea. And somehow, that simple image contains everything anyone has ever felt about love that wasn't returned, about offering everything and having it refused, about being left behind to sit alone with beauty that means nothing without someone to share it with.